There is a moment that every person who has ever been seriously ill knows intimately. It is not the moment of sickness itself, it is the moment after. The moment when the fever breaks, when the infection clears, when the surgery heals, when the treatment ends. The moment when the body is technically no longer sick but is not yet well, when you stand up and your legs feel borrowed. When you try to eat and the food tastes like nothing. When you look in the mirror and see someone who looks like you but thinner, paler, quieter. When you realize that surviving the illness was only the first battle and that rebuilding what the illness took is an entirely different one. The ancient world knew this moment as well as we do, perhaps better. Because in the ancient world, illness was not followed by a hospital discharge and a prescription. It was followed by a return to the household, to the field, to the community, with whatever the earth provided and whatever the accumulated wisdom of generations had learned about what the body needed to come back. And what that wisdom prescribed, what those ancient healers reached for in the days and weeks after serious illness, was not arbitrary. It was not superstition. It was the result of centuries of careful observation about which foods rebuilt muscle and which restored energy, which supported the immune system as it recovered, and which repaired the organs that illness had damaged, which gave the body back its strength, and which gave the spirit back its will to use it. That wisdom is recorded in the oldest and most widely read text in human history, not in a chapter dedicated to medicine, not in a section labeled recovery protocols, but woven through the narratives, the laws, the poetry, and the prophecies of a book whose understanding of the human body is only now being confirmed by the most advanced nutritional science in the world. This video covers 10 biblical foods that rebuilt the body after illness exactly as God designed. Every food discussed here appears directly in Scripture. Every health claim is grounded in published peer-reviewed research. Every method of preparation is specific, practical, and actionable today. And every section will tell you not only what the food does, but how to use it, where to find it, and why the ancient world trusted it long before any laboratory confirmed what it already knew. Before we begin, something must be said with complete sincerity. If you are recovering from a serious illness, surgery, or medical treatment, please do not make changes to your diet or discontinue any prescribed medication or supplement without first consulting your doctor or a qualified healthcare professional. Recovery from serious illness is a medical process, and the foods in this video, however powerful and however well documented, are designed to support that process alongside your healthcare team, not to replace them. Your recovery is too important, and your body in its post-illness vulnerability is too precious to risk on any single source of guidance, however ancient or however well-researched. Please bring this information to your physician and let them help you apply it safely to your specific situation. With that understanding clearly stated, let us begin. Imagine for a moment the household of Hezekiah, king of Judah, in the 8th century before the Common Era. The book of 2 Kings chapter 20 opens with a devastating announcement. The prophet Isaiah comes to Hezekiah and tells him to set his house in order because he is going to die. The illness is not named, but it is described as a boil, likely a serious systemic infection, the kind that in the ancient world before antibiotics was almost universally fatal. Hezekiah turns his face to the wall and prays with a desperation that is one of the most humanly raw moments in all of Scripture. God hears, God responds, and Isaiah returns with a message of healing. But what Isaiah prescribes as the physical instrument of that healing is not a prayer alone. It is a poultice of figs applied directly to the wound. The king recovers completely, and he stands tall. This moment, almost always read as a straightforward miracle narrative, contains within it a detail that reveals how the ancient biblical world understood the relationship between divine healing and the use of natural medicine. God healed Hezekiah, and God prescribed figs as the vehicle of that healing. The sacred and the botanical were not in competition. They were always the same thing. The first food is figs. Their appearance in the Hezekiah narrative as a direct healing agent is the most dramatically presented medicinal use of any food in the entire Old Testament. But their presence throughout Scripture is far broader. They are the third plant named in Genesis. They are among the 7 species of the Promised Land described in Deuteronomy. Jesus uses the fig tree as a recurring metaphor in his teaching. And they were consumed daily in the ancient biblical world as one of the most nutritionally complete foods available. For post-illness recovery specifically, figs provide a combination of nutrients that modern sports medicine and clinical nutrition have identified as critical for rebuilding the body after serious illness. They are one of the most significant plant-based sources of calcium available in the ancient dietary world, providing approximately 90 milligrams per 100-gram serving. Calcium is not only a bone mineral. It is essential for muscle contraction, nerve signal transmission, and the enzymatic processes that drive cellular repair throughout the recovery period. They are also rich in magnesium, which plays a critical role in protein synthesis, the biochemical process by which the body manufactures new tissue to replace what illness has destroyed. And they contain significant concentrations of vitamin K, which is required for the blood clotting processes that seal damaged tissue and the bone matrix formation processes that rebuild skeletal integrity after illness-related bone loss. The potassium content of figs addresses one of the most clinically significant nutritional deficits that occurs during serious illness. Fever, vomiting, diarrhea, and reduced food intake during illness all deplete potassium dramatically, and potassium depletion produces the profound muscle weakness, fatigue, and cardiac irregularity that characterize the post-illness state that ancient people described as the body being empty. Restoring potassium through food is one of the most important nutritional steps in early recovery, and figs provide it in a form that is gentle enough for a digestive system that has been weakened by illness. To use figs for post-illness recovery today, eat 2 to 3 fresh or dried figs daily, beginning as soon as the digestive system can tolerate solid food after illness. Fresh figs are the most easily digestible form and are appropriate even in the earliest stages of recovery when appetite is minimal. Dried figs are more concentrated in their nutrient content and are appropriate as appetite and digestive capacity return. Fig compote, made by simmering dried figs in water until soft and consuming the resulting preparation warm, is an ancient preparation method that is both highly digestible and nutrient-dense, making it ideal for the very early recovery period when the digestive system is still fragile. Figs are available year-round in their dried form in virtually every grocery store worldwide. The second food is bone broth and the animals from which it is derived. The consumption of broth made from bones, marrow, and connective tissue is so deeply embedded in the ancient world the Bible describes that it requires no single dramatic scriptural reference to establish its presence. It is simply what people did when someone was ill or recovering. In 1 Kings chapter 17, the widow of Zarephath and her son are on the verge of starvation when Elijah arrives. The provision God makes through Elijah restores the household to life, and the foods described across this narrative are the foundational recovery foods of the ancient Near Eastern world. In the Passover narrative of Exodus, the lamb is roasted whole and consumed completely, with specific instructions about what should not be wasted. Instructions that assume an intimate familiarity with the practice of consuming every part of the animal, including the bones and marrow. Modern nutritional science has confirmed that bone broth contains a specific combination of compounds that are uniquely suited to post-illness recovery. Collagen and its derivative gelatin are the primary structural proteins of connective tissue, cartilage, the gut lining, and the skin. Serious illness, particularly illness involving inflammation, fever, or significant physical trauma, depletes collagen throughout the body. The body's ability to manufacture new collagen during recovery is one of the primary determinants of how completely and how quickly the physical structures damaged by illness are rebuilt. Bone broth provides collagen in a pre-digested hydrolyzed form that is directly bioavailable even to a digestive system that has been significantly weakened by illness. Bone broth also contains glycine, an amino acid that is required for the synthesis of glutathione, the liver's primary antioxidant compound and the most important single molecule in the body's post-illness detoxification process. Research published in the journal Amino Acids found that glycine supplementation significantly accelerated recovery from illness-related oxidative stress and supported immune system restoration. Bone broth provides glycine in the concentration and bioavailable form that the ancient world had access to simply by simmering the bones of the animals they consumed. The gut-healing properties of bone broth deserve specific mention in the recovery context because illness almost universally damages the gut lining through a combination of the inflammatory process itself, the effects of fever, and in modern recovery contexts, the effects of antibiotics and other pharmaceutical treatments. The gelatin in bone broth directly supports the repair of the intestinal mucosal lining, restoring the gut's ability to absorb the nutrients that all recovery depends on. A gut lining that cannot absorb nutrients efficiently will limit the effectiveness of every other food on this list. To use bone broth for post-illness recovery today, prepare it by simmering animal bones, ideally including knuckle bones and marrow bones from grass-fed or pasture-raised animals, in water with a small amount of apple cider vinegar for a minimum of 12 hours and, ideally, 24 hours. The vinegar draws minerals from the bones into the broth. Begin consuming warm bone broth during the acute illness phase itself, as its liquid form, electrolyte content, and high bioavailability make it appropriate even when solid food is not tolerable. Continue consuming 1 to 2 cups daily throughout the recovery period. High-quality prepared bone broth is available in most grocery stores and health food stores. However, the most nutritionally complete version is always the homemade preparation from high-quality bones, as commercial products vary significantly in their collagen and mineral content.
The third food is pomegranate. Its significance in the biblical world was established in the previous video in this series, but its specific relevance to post-illness recovery deserves its own dedicated treatment because the mechanisms by which pomegranate supports recovery are distinct from its general health properties and directly address the specific physiological challenges of the post-illness state. The Book of Numbers, chapter 13, records the spies sent by Moses to explore Canaan, returning with pomegranates among the evidence of the land's extraordinary abundance. Deuteronomy chapter 8 lists it among the 7 species that define the Promised Land. The Song of Solomon references it repeatedly as an image of vitality, abundance, and the fullness of life restored. These are not incidental mentions. In the agricultural and dietary culture of ancient Israel, the pomegranate was understood as a food of restoration, of fullness returned after emptiness, of life renewed. For post-illness recovery, pomegranate's most significant property is its extraordinary anti-inflammatory capacity. Serious illness triggers a systemic inflammatory response that, even after the infectious agent or disease process has been resolved, leaves a residual inflammatory state in the body that impairs tissue repair, depletes energy, and contributes to the prolonged fatigue and weakness of the post-illness period. The punicalagins in pomegranate are among the most potent, naturally occurring anti-inflammatory compounds known to nutritional science. Research published in the journal Inflammation found that pomegranate extract produced significant reductions in multiple inflammatory markers simultaneously, addressing the post-illness inflammatory burden through several biochemical pathways at once rather than a single mechanism. Pomegranate is also among the richest dietary sources of vitamin C available in the ancient biblical world. Vitamin C is required for collagen synthesis, for immune cell production, and for the regeneration of other antioxidants, including vitamin E and glutathione, that are depleted during the immune response to illness. The combination of anti-inflammatory punicalagins and immune-supporting vitamin C makes pomegranate one of the most precisely targeted recovery foods in the entire biblical dietary tradition. To use pomegranate for post-illness recovery today, drink 1 glass of pure cold-pressed pomegranate juice daily throughout the recovery period, beginning as soon as the digestive system can tolerate liquids beyond water. The juice form is preferable in the early recovery phase because its nutrients are immediately bioavailable without requiring significant digestive effort. As recovery progresses, consuming the whole fruit seeds provides the additional benefit of the fruit's fiber content and the higher polyphenol concentration found in the membrane and the pith surrounding the seeds. Pure pomegranate juice without added sugar is available in most grocery stores and health food stores year-round. The fourth food is honey. The scriptural record of honey as a recovery and restoration food is one of the most consistent in the entire biblical narrative. When Jonathan eats honey in 1 Samuel chapter 14, the text records that his eyes were brightened, a description that captures precisely the subjective experience of energy and vitality restored after depletion. When God describes the Promised Land as flowing with milk and honey, the combination is not accidental. These are the 2 foods most consistently associated in ancient nutritional understanding with the restoration of strength after weakness and the rebuilding of the body after loss. For post-illness recovery, Honey's primary significance lies in three distinct properties that address three of the most critical challenges of the recovery period. The first is its role as an immediately bioavailable energy source. During serious illness, the body depletes its glycogen stores and the glucose required to fuel the immune response, and the tissue repair processes of recovery must be replenished. Honey provides glucose and fructose in a form that is absorbed directly through the intestinal lining without requiring significant digestive processing, making it one of the few foods that can provide meaningful energy even to a severely compromised digestive system. The second property is antimicrobial. Honey contains hydrogen peroxide, methyl glyoxal, and defensin-1, compounds that have demonstrated significant antimicrobial activity against a broad range of bacteria in clinical research. In the recovery period, when the immune system is depleted and the body is vulnerable to secondary infection, these antimicrobial properties provide a measure of natural protection that the ancient world understood empirically long before the mechanisms were identified. The third property is prebiotic. The fructooligosaccharides in raw honey selectively feed beneficial bacterial species in the gut microbiome, supporting the restoration of the microbial balance that serious illness, particularly illness treated with antibiotics, disrupts significantly. A restored gut microbiome is one of the most critical factors in full recovery because the gut microbiome regulates immune function, nutrient absorption, inflammatory response, and even mood and cognitive function through the gut-brain axis. All of these systems are compromised during illness, and all of them depend on gut microbiome restoration for their recovery. To use honey for post-illness recovery today, consume 1 to 2 teaspoons of raw, unfiltered honey in warm water or herbal tea 2 to 3 times daily throughout the recovery period. The warm water preparation, consumed first thing in the morning before food, provides an immediately available energy source that gently stimulates digestive function. Raw honey applied directly to skin wounds, surgical incisions, or pressure sores, as a topical preparation has also demonstrated significant wound healing acceleration in clinical research, consistent with its ancient use as a topical healing agent. Raw, unfiltered honey is available in health food stores, farmers' markets, and online from specialist producers. Standard pasteurized commercial honey has had many of its active compounds degraded by heat treatment and is significantly less effective for recovery purposes.
The fifth food is lentils. Their appearance in Genesis chapter 25 as the food Esau values enough to trade his birthright for has already been discussed. But their specific nutritional profile for post-illness recovery deserves detailed examination because they address what modern clinical nutrition recognizes as the most critical nutritional challenge of recovery from serious illness. That challenge is rebuilding muscle mass. Serious illness, particularly any illness involving fever, infection, hospitalization, or reduced food intake, causes significant loss of skeletal muscle through a process called illness-induced catabolism. The body, in the absence of adequate dietary protein during illness, dismantles its own muscle tissue to provide the amino acids required to fuel the immune response. The result is the muscle weakness and physical deconditioning that characterizes the post-illness state and that can persist for months or even years if recovery nutrition is inadequate. Lentils are one of the richest plant-based protein sources available in the ancient biblical world, providing approximately 18 grams of protein per cooked cup. But protein quantity alone does not determine recovery effectiveness. Protein quality, specifically the amino acid profile and the digestibility of the protein, determines how effectively dietary protein is converted into new muscle tissue during recovery. Lentils provide a complete amino acid profile when consumed alongside grain-based foods, a combination that the ancient biblical world achieved naturally through the daily pairing of lentils with bread or grain preparations. The combination creates a complementary protein profile that delivers all 9 essential amino acids in the proportions required for muscle protein synthesis. Lentils are also among the most significant dietary sources of iron available in the ancient plant-based dietary tradition. Illness-related anemia, whether caused by the inflammatory process itself or by the nutritional depletion of the illness period, is one of the most common and most debilitating aspects of post-illness recovery. Fatigue, breathlessness, and cognitive impairment during recovery are frequently iron deficiency related. The iron in lentils, while in the non-heme form that is less readily absorbed than animal source iron, is significantly enhanced in its absorption when consumed alongside vitamin C-rich foods such as pomegranate juice, a combination that ancient culinary tradition achieved intuitively through the pairing of these foods in the same meal. To use lentils for post-illness recovery today, prepare red lentils as a soup or puree during the early recovery phase when digestive capacity is limited. Red lentils do not require soaking, cook to a soft texture within 20 minutes, and are among the most easily digestible legumes available. As recovery progresses, incorporate green and brown lentils in more substantial preparations. Consume lentils alongside a vitamin C-rich food at the same meal to maximize iron absorption. A bowl of red lentil soup prepared with garlic and olive oil consumed with a glass of pomegranate juice combines 5 of the 10 foods on this list into a single meal that addresses muscle rebuilding, iron restoration, gut healing, anti-inflammatory support, and liver recovery simultaneously. Lentils are available in every grocery store worldwide at minimal cost. The 6th food is olive oil. Its presence in this list requires no new scriptural justification. It is one of the most comprehensively documented foods in the entire biblical tradition, and its specific contribution to post-illness recovery is distinct from its general health properties and directly addresses the physiological needs of the recovering body. The primary recovery-specific property of olive oil is its role in supporting the resolution of the post-illness inflammatory state. Inflammation during illness is a necessary and protective immune response. But the resolution of that inflammation after the illness has been resolved is equally important and equally active, a biological process. Research published in the journal Nature identified a class of compounds called specialized pro-resolving mediators that are synthesized from omega-9 fatty acids, the primary fatty acid in olive oil, and that actively signal the immune system to stand down from its inflammatory posture and transition into the tissue repair and restoration phase of recovery. This resolution process, which modern immunology understands as a distinct and active biological phase rather than simply the passive fading of inflammation, is directly supported by the oleic acid content of extra virgin olive oil. Olive oil also provides fat-soluble vitamin absorption support that is critical in recovery. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are all fat-soluble, meaning they require dietary fat for their absorption from food. All 4 of these vitamins play specific and critical roles in recovery. Vitamin A supports the regeneration of mucosal tissue lining the respiratory and digestive tracts. Vitamin D regulates immune function and muscle recovery. Vitamin E is the primary fat-soluble antioxidant protecting cell membranes from oxidative damage during the recovery period. Vitamin K is required for tissue repair and bone matrix rebuilding. Consuming olive oil with the other foods in this recovery protocol ensures that the fat-soluble vitamins in those foods are absorbed rather than passing through the digestive system unused. To use olive oil for post-illness recovery today, incorporate 2 to 3 tablespoons of cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil into every meal throughout the recovery period. Drizzle it over cooked lentils, mix it into bone broth, use it as the cooking medium for garlic preparations, and consume it with the grain and legume combinations that provide the protein foundation of recovery nutrition. The fat-soluble vitamin absorption enhancement that olive oil provides means that its greatest benefit in recovery comes not from consuming it alone, but from consuming it consistently with the other nutrient-rich foods in the recovery diet. The 7th food is garlic. Its scriptural anchor in this context is the same as in the liver video, the longing of the Israelites in Numbers chapter 11 for the garlic of Egypt. But its specific recovery application addresses a challenge that is distinct from its liver protective properties and that the ancient world understood with particular clarity. During and immediately after serious illness, the immune system is in a state of profound depletion. The white blood cells, antibodies, and natural killer cells that defended the body during illness have been consumed in that defense and must be rebuilt. The body's ability to manufacture new immune cells depends on specific micronutrients, several of which are provided in exceptional concentrations by garlic. Zinc, selenium, and the sulfur compounds in garlic are all directly involved in immune cell production and function. Research published in the journal Advances in Therapy found that garlic supplementation significantly reduced the duration and severity of illness recurrence in subjects who had recently recovered from illness, specifically through its effect on natural killer cell activity and macrophage activation. This is the specific immune vulnerability of the post-illness period that the ancient world addressed empirically by restoring garlic to the diet as quickly as possible after illness. The Israelites in Egypt who consumed garlic daily were maintaining an immune resilience that the wilderness diet, stripped of this protective food, could not replicate. Their longing for it was not merely culinary nostalgia, it was the biological memory of a body that knew what it needed. Allicin, the primary bioactive compound in garlic, also has documented antimicrobial properties against a broad spectrum of pathogens including bacteria, viruses, and fungi. During the post-illness period, when the immune system is depleted and the body is at its highest vulnerability to secondary infection, the antimicrobial protection that regular garlic consumption provides is directly relevant to the completion of a full recovery. To use garlic for post-illness recovery today, crush or finely chop 2 to 3 cloves of fresh garlic and allow them to rest for 10 minutes before incorporating them into warm bone broth, lentil preparations, or olive oil-based dishes. The 10-minute resting period maximizes the allicin formation before heat exposure. For those whose digestive systems are too fragile in early recovery to tolerate raw garlic, lightly cooked garlic in olive oil retains meaningful concentrations of the sulfur compounds and flavonoids that support immune recovery even when the allicin content is reduced by heat. Fresh garlic is available in every grocery store worldwide. The 8th food is dates. They appear throughout the biblical narrative as a food of extraordinary sustenance and restoration. The palm tree and its fruit are referenced across both testaments as symbols of victory, righteousness, and flourishing. In Psalm 92 verse 12, the righteous are compared to the palm tree that bears fruit in its old age, still full of sap and green. Deborah judges Israel under a palm tree in Judges chapter 4. The people greet Jesus with palm branches in the triumphal entry narrative. Dates, the fruit of the date palm, were among the most calorie-dense and nutritionally complete foods available to the ancient Near Eastern world. For post-illness recovery, dates address a specific and critical nutritional need that few other foods in the biblical dietary tradition can match. They are one of the most concentrated natural sources of rapidly available carbohydrate energy combined with a significant micronutrient payload. A single 100-gram serving of dates provides approximately 75 grams of carbohydrate, 2.5 grams of fiber, and significant concentrations of potassium, magnesium, copper, manganese, and B vitamins. This combination of immediate energy with micronutrient density makes dates one of the most effective single foods for addressing the profound energy depletion. Copper, present in exceptional concentrations in dates, is a micronutrient that receives almost no attention in popular nutrition discussion, despite its critical role in post-illness recovery. Copper is required for the synthesis of ceruloplasmin, the primary copper-carrying protein in the blood that is essential for iron mobilization, for the production of connective tissue through its role in lysyl oxidase enzyme function, and for the maturation of immune cells. Illness depletes copper significantly, and the failure to restore copper status is one of the under-recognized reasons why recovery from serious illness can be prolonged. To use dates for post-illness recovery today, consume 3 to 5 whole dates daily as a between-meal snack, or as part of the morning and evening meals throughout the recovery period. Their natural sweetness makes them acceptable even to appetites depressed by illness, and their soft texture makes them appropriate for digestive systems. Medjool dates provide the highest concentration of the beneficial compounds. Standard dried dates are equally effective and more economical. Avoid dates with added sugar or preservatives, as these represent unnecessary processing of a food that is already perfectly designed in its natural form. The 9th food is eggs. Their presence in the biblical world is embedded in the agricultural reality of a culture that kept domestic fowl. In Luke chapter 11, verse 12, Jesus asks rhetorically whether a father would give his son a scorpion when he asks for an egg. an analogy that depends entirely on the audience understanding eggs as one of the most universally available and fundamentally nourishing foods. In Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 6 and 7, specific laws govern the ethical treatment of a bird and its eggs. For post-illness recovery, eggs provide what modern sports nutrition describes as the highest biological value protein available from any whole food source. Biological value measures how efficiently the body converts dietary protein into its own tissue, and egg protein achieves a biological value of 100, meaning that virtually every gram of protein consumed from eggs is available for the muscle synthesis and tissue repair processes of recovery. The complete amino acid profile of eggs, their high leucine content, which is the specific amino acid that triggers muscle protein synthesis, and their exceptional digestibility, even in a compromised digestive system, make them one of the most precisely targeted recovery foods. Eggs also provide choline in concentrations that are difficult to match from any other single food. Choline is essential for fat transport from the liver and for the structural integrity of cell membranes throughout the body. During illness, cell membranes throughout the body are damaged by oxidative stress, and their repair during recovery depends directly on the availability of choline for phosphatidylcholine synthesis. A recovering body that is choline deficient cannot efficiently repair its damaged cell membranes regardless of how adequate its other nutritional status may be. Egg yolks additionally provide the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K in highly bioavailable forms. Vitamin D in particular being a nutrient whose deficiency is now recognized as a significant factor in prolonged post-illness recovery. Research published in the journal Nutrients found that vitamin D sufficiency was directly associated with faster recovery from serious respiratory illness. To use eggs for post-illness recovery today, consume 2 to 3 whole eggs daily throughout the recovery period, beginning with soft-cooked or poached eggs in the early recovery phase when digestive capacity is limited. Soft-cooked eggs are among the most easily digestible protein sources available, and their warm preparation is gentle to a stomach stressed by illness. As recovery progresses, incorporate eggs in a broader range. Scrambled eggs cooked gently in olive oil with garlic combines 3 foods on this list. Eggs are available in every grocery store worldwide at minimal cost and are among the most economically accessible recovery foods. The 10th food is water steeped with hyssop and other bitter herbs, the preparation that Isaiah prescribed for Hezekiah, and the category of herbal infusions that the ancient biblical world used throughout the recovery period to support restoration. Hyssop appears more than a dozen times in Scripture. It is used in the Passover narrative and throughout the Mosaic Law. David writes in Psalm 51, "Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean," and it is the specific plant chosen by Isaiah. Modern analysis of hyssop reveals a pharmacological profile that is directly relevant to post-illness recovery. The volatile oils in hyssop, particularly pinocamphone and isopinocamphone, have demonstrated expectorant and mild antiviral properties. The rosmarinic acid in hyssop has demonstrated anti-inflammatory properties that contribute to the resolution of post-illness systemic inflammation. And the bitter compounds in hyssop stimulate digestive function, supporting the restoration of appetite and digestive efficiency. The broader category of bitter herbal infusions used in the biblical world, including preparations from wormwood, dandelion, and chicory, all stimulate the liver's bile production and the digestive system's enzymatic activity through the cephalic phase response. For a digestive system that has been suppressed and damaged by illness, this gentle stimulation is precisely what is needed to restore functional capacity. To use herbal infusions for post-illness recovery today, prepare hyssop tea by steeping 1 teaspoon of dried hyssop herb in hot water for 10 minutes. Add a small amount of raw honey to the preparation to combine the prebiotic and antimicrobial properties of honey. This combination of hyssop and honey in warm water is the closest modern equivalent to the kind of preparation that Isaiah would have prescribed for Hezekiah, and that the ancient world would have recognized as a foundational recovery protocol. Dried hyssop is available from health food stores and online retailers. 10 foods, 10 biblical anchors, 10 bodies of modern scientific research converging on the same ancient wisdom. Figs providing the minerals and fiber that rebuild cellular structure and restore potassium after illness-induced depletion. Bone broth delivering the collagen, glycine, and gut-healing compounds that rebuild the physical scaffolding illness has dismantled. Pomegranate reducing the residual inflammation that prevents full recovery, and restoring the vitamin C that the immune response has consumed. Honey providing immediately available energy, antimicrobial protection, and prebiotic support for the gut microbiome that illness has disrupted. Lentils delivering the protein and iron that rebuild muscle and restore the blood's oxygen-carrying capacity. Olive oil providing the fat-soluble vitamin absorption support and the inflammation-resolving compounds that allow every other food to perform its function. Garlic rebuilding the immune resilience that illness has depleted and protecting the recovering body from secondary infection. Dates restoring the energy and micronutrient density that the illness period has stripped away, including the copper that connective tissue rebuilding depends on. Eggs providing the highest biological value protein available from any whole food, the choline required for cell membrane repair, and the vitamin D that immune restoration depends on. And hyssop tea with honey gently restoring digestive function and addressing the respiratory and systemic inflammatory residue that illness leaves behind. These 10 foods are not a clinical treatment protocol. They are not a substitute for medical care. They are not a guarantee of any specific recovery outcome. They are what the ancient world reached for when someone they loved had been through the valley of illness and needed to find their way back. They are what Scripture describes, what tradition preserved, and what modern science is now confirming. Compound by compound, study by study, with a consistency that is difficult to dismiss and impossible to ignore. Recovery is not just survival. It is restoration. It is the body finding its way back to the fullness that illness took from it. The ancient world understood this, and it built its recovery wisdom accordingly. 10 foods available today, grounded in Scripture, confirmed by science, exactly as God designed. If this video has been valuable to you, please subscribe to the Biblical Apothecary so you never miss a new discovery. Share this video with someone you know who is currently recovering from illness, because this knowledge was always meant to be shared freely, and it was always meant to reach the people who need it most. Leave a comment below telling us which of these 10 foods you are already incorporating into your recovery and which ones you are adding this week. Every comment, every share, and every subscription helps this channel continue to restore the ancient wisdom that was always meant to reach you. Stay rooted, and we will see you in the next video.